Hey all, and welcome to the first potentially annual Game Awards hosted by me. Why did I decide to do this? Because one day I thought, video games are pretty cool, I want to talk about them. So what better way to start talking about video games than by not talking about video games? I present the Not a Video Game Award. Before I properly start, I just wanted to mention how exactly this is going to work. I'll say what the next award is, but there won't be a list of nominees. Instead, I'll dive straight into the winner, talking about why I think it deserves the winning spot. Afterwards, I'll talk about other things that fit under the award category before moving on to the next one. Now, without further ado, the Not a Video Game Award, an award for media that are not video games. The winner is... Komi Can't Communicate. Close to the beginning of the year, I decided that I wanted to watch more shows, so to accomplish this, I decided to watch an episode or two of a show, mainly anime, while I eat my dinner. Komi Can't Communicate was one of these shows, and to this day it is the only one where I said screw this format and decided to binge the rest of it instead. The series just means a ton to me, and I simply love it so much. Almost all of the characters, almost all, are incredibly fun and unique, and it's always such a joy to see Komi build a relationship with them. Najimi specifically is one of my all-time favourite characters, and they never fail to make me laugh. It is one of my favourite pieces of media, period. I also read all of the Komi-san manga, which was a lot of fun. Special shoutouts to specifically Everything Everywhere All at Once, which left me absolutely jaw-dropped once I finished it, and Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop, which is a wonderful romance anime that drenched me in tears. There were plenty of other anime shows which I watched because of my dinner time format, so I just want to mention those too. Nichijou presented me with non-stop laughter. Death Note had me on the edge of my seat for every episode. Assassination Classroom contained a large cast of brilliantly fun characters. Cowboy Bebop is just cool as fuck. And there are so many more shows, but I don't want to go on for too long. Next up is the Video Game Not a Video Game Award, an award for media that are not video games but are based on one. The winner is... The Cuphead Show. This show didn't do anything that blew me out of the water, it was simply just some good old animated fun. I was also a fan of the original video game, so it was really cool to see how the world and characters of the game were utilised within each of the show's episodes. Not much else to say about it, just a really fun show. Honourable mentions to Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which was an incredible show, but I watched it in the background while doing other stuff, so I sadly can't say too much about it. And to the second Sonic the Hedgehog film, which was a really fun adaptation of the character, but I think was just the tiniest bit worse than the first film. Next up is the Fun Watch Award for the best video game related content on YouTube or Twitch. The winner is... Super Mario Odyssey Multiplayer. It's a bit of an unexpected choice, but there's been so much content using Mario Odyssey's multiplayer mod. From hide and seek to speedrunner vs Hunter, it's always such a blast to watch. Special shoutouts to Fur, who had my favourite SMO multiplayer video where he hosted a Mario Odyssey game show containing a plethora of unique challenges for his friends to compete in. Honourable mentions to Hollow Knight's multiplayer mod, which was just as fun, and Scott, Sam, Eric and the Year of Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics for being absolutely wild as fuck. Next up is the Pop-Off Award for the best video game related announcement. The winner is... Hollow Knight Silksong at the Xbox Plus Bethesda Game Showcase 2022. 2022 was honestly quite tame this year for me personally in terms of announcements, but I did end up getting my most wanted, which was some more goddamn Silksong news. After Hollow Knight became my favourite video game of all time, I quickly joined the hype train for Silksong. Said train sadly came to a halt though, as we wouldn't get any news for an entire year and a half, but I kept patient, and the wait was 100% worth it. Honourable mentions to the Turnip Boy robs a bank reveal, which is unexpected but the perfect direction for the series to head in, and Earthblade at the Game Awards, which I am so incredibly excited to learn more about. Next up is the Hype Train Award for my most anticipated video game. The winner is... Unsurprisingly, Hollow Knight Silksong. It's the sequel to my favourite video game of all time, and it looks even better than said game, so of course this is my most anticipated. Everything from the movement to the backgrounds to the music, it all looks like it has been improved significantly from the original game, so I absolutely cannot wait to get my hands on this upcoming masterpiece. Honourable mentions to Framemakers, which is an incredible indie Smash Bros like platform fighter, and Crowsworn, the Hollow Knight inspired Metroidvania where you have a gun. I've been following both of these games since their Kickstarters, and I'm just as excited to try them out as I am Silksong. Next up is the Gimme Award, for the game I want to play the most that's already released. The winner is... Slime Rancher 2. This game has cute slimes, enough said. In all seriousness though, I played the first Slime Rancher a couple years ago on my cousin's Xbox, and that game was a whole heap of fun, so I was really hyped when the sequel got announced, and I know I will be buying the game as soon as it comes out on either PlayStation or Switch. Honourable mentions to Demon Turf, a Ghost Runner and Neon White. They are all vastly different games, but they have one common thing: sick ass movement. I'm a sucker for cool movement in video games, so I'd love to try all three of these games someday. Next up is the Procrastinator Award, for the game I want to play the most from my backlog. The winner is... Rabbids Go Home. Perhaps an unexpected choice, but this is a very underrated addition to the Wii library. I remember having loads of fun with the game when I was younger, especially with that side mode where Rabbids stuck inside of your controller, so I definitely want to revisit it someday. Honourable mentions to Persona 5 Strikers, the hack and slash sequel to the original JRPG, and Subnautica, the ocean survival game with big scary fish and an incredible atmosphere. Next up is the Sick Vibes Award, for the best single song from a video game. The winner is... Jubilife Village from Pokémon Legends Arceus. This song is somehow the epitome of nostalgia, and it's in a game that's only a year old. It's just such a beautiful work of art. When I played Legends Arceus, I often found myself in the village doing absolutely nothing but becoming enveloped within the coziness of this track. Honourable mentions to Time to Fight from Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected, which just straight up slaps, and A Fertile Wooded Heart from Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, which is another absolutely beautiful song. Next up is the Sick Vibes Plus Award for the best overall soundtrack in a video game. The winner is... Chicory, A Colourful Tale. From the minute I booted up the game to the moment the credits stopped rolling, every single note of Lena Raine's incredible compositions just filled me with every emotion imaginable. All of the locations within Chicory's world are filled with the perfect adventurous tunes to fill the atmosphere, and you can feel the pain that hides within that boss music. Honourable mentions to Xenoblade Chronicles for its unending list of musical greatness, and 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors for the perfect amount of unnerve that the soundtrack brings out. Next up is the Flashbang Award, for the game with the most stunning visuals. The winner is... Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Every pixel of the world within the first Xenoblade Chronicles game filled me with non-stop awe. Whether it was the breathtakingly huge grass-filled Gaur Plains or the beautiful snowscape that is Valak Mountain. And the moment my jaw dropped to the goddamn floor upon realizing the entire world is set on a giant fucking robot with a second giant fucking robot looming over you the entire time is a memory that will certainly not be forgotten. Honourable mentions to Tori 3D for its cute little polygonal style, and Little Nightmares for having the absolutely most atmospherically terrifying environments I've ever seen. Next up is the Bestie Award, for the best character from a video game. The winner is... Aeropon Ricky from Xenoblade Chronicles. The Nopons in general are some of the cutest little guys I've ever seen, but Ricky specifically just takes the cake. He always managed to put a smile on my face, even through the tough parts of the game. He's also a very fun character gameplay wise, with a unique status effect based moveset. Honourable mentions to Melia and Rain for being my 2 other favourites from the same game, and Bunger Royale from the Bugsnax DLC for being a bunger that is big. Next up is the Woman Found Dead in Drowning Incident Award, for the game that made me cry the most. The winner is... Chicory, A Colourful Tale. This game simply just tells an amazingly beautiful story from start to finish. The mountaintop song made me shed a tear, but the ending had me bawling so hard you could call me LeBron James. Honourable mentions to Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion for its surprisingly emotional aforementioned credit song, and 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, which did not make me cry, but it got very damn close. Next up is the Relaxation Station Award for the best game to chill out with. The winner is... Meow Tower. You've probably not even heard of this one. It's a cute little monogram game I found on the Play Store. I played it every day while waiting on the bus, and it was always a fun little time. Honourable mentions to literally every Picross game and Clubhouse games on the DS. Both for the same reason, I just didn't play them as much. Next up is the Deuces Award for the best multiplayer game. The winner is... Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is one of the only games that I find fun to actually play online, as even if I'm losing, it's still fun to just be driving around the course. And playing with my friends is always a blast. The addition of DLC this year definitely helped too, as my friends and I keep coming back to try out all the new courses. However, the fun doesn't just stop there. I've spent many hours by myself trying to perfect my racing in time trials, which is always fun to do whilst listening to a podcast or some music. Honourable mentions to Spelunky 2 for being a chaotic mess of fun, and Overwatch 2 for being a nice little distraction during the month of October. Next up is the Left Field Award for the game that surprised my expectations the most. The winner is... Fortnite! Just kidding, it's Deep Rock Galactic. Get it? It's out of left field. I got this game for free with my PlayStation Plus subscription at the beginning of the year, and man was it a nice surprise. I knew the game had co-op, so I threatened a few of my friends to get the game so we could play together, and the few times we played was some of the most fun I've had this year. The game also offers a relaxing way to end the day if you decide to play solo. Honourable mentions to Torii 3D for being an incredibly fun little 3D platformer, and newer Super Mario Bros. DS for being a very well polished ROM hack of the original classic. Next up is the Right Field Award for the game that perfectly met my expectations. The winner is... Stray! I saw a game where you get to play as a cat revealed in 2020. I wanted this game where you get to play as a cat. I waited 2 years for this game where you get to play as a cat to release. I then played a game where you get to play as a cat, and it was a very good game where you get to play as a cat. Honourable mentions to Little Nightmares and Super Hot, which were both games I had watched fully on YouTube before, so I already knew I would love playing them. Next up is the You Must Pay to View This Award for the best update / DLC this year. The winner is... The Isle of Big Snacks from Bug Snacks. It's more of one of my favourite games of all time, and it has a huge cheeseburger! So of course this is my favourite extra content this year. The island was super fun to explore, and I loved seeing all of the new Bugsnax designs. They also added more Bugsnax lore, which was awesome. The rest of the update was cool too, as we got to design our own house and now Cowboy Bunga exists, so all is right with the world. Honourable mentions to the delicious last course from Cuphead for being well worth the wait, and Future Connected from Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for giving us more Melia. Next up is the Old School Cool Award for the best retro game. The winner is... 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. This game was an absolute roller coaster, and one of the best roller coasters I've ever ridden. Both the story and the gameplay were an absolute blast, and it was so interesting just to see everything unravel. And I obviously won't spoil anything, but the game has one of the coolest uses of the DS's hardware I have ever seen. Honourable mentions to Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which was a fun as hell puzzle game by the Ace Attorney team, and all of the old rhythm games I've played for being fun little distractions. Next up is the Game of the Year award for the best game that came out in 2022. The winner is... Stray! I didn't really play many games that released this year. In fact, I only played 3, and this was one of the 2 that I actually beat. But man, do I have some good taste, as it was simply a very fun game where you get to play as a cute little cat exploring this interesting little world. Honourable mentions to Tunic for being an incredibly well designed game, I just have not beaten it yet, and Pokémon Legends Arceus for being a fun and relaxing new venture in the Pokémon world. One more thing before the final award. I asked some of my friends to share their personal favourite games of this year, so here they are. Leslie says her game of the year is Splatoon 3. She was big into the other games but never actually played them herself, so this was her first time trying out the series. The large variety of modes, from regular multiplayer to story mode to even a card game, all keeps you from getting bored, as you can always just switch which mode you're playing. However, the greatest part of Splatoon is the world. There's an entire culture to explore, and it really is a unique experience. It's all super lively and in your face, which helps contextualize it all into a big heap of cultural goodness that feels alive. There's also plenty more to talk about, from the music to the characters to the extensive array of weapons and playstyles, but it is most definitely something that one should experience himself. Josh says his game of the year is Yakuza 0. He's a big fan of the series in general, but this one in particular is special. It's a prequel to the original games whilst also making its own name for itself. Learning about the past for all the characters that you've grown to know is an absolute blast, as you get to play as either Kiryu or Majima pre-Yakuza 1. The combat is recognisable but fresh, as it brings back the iconic forms from the other games. It's simultaneously filled with depth whilst being beginner friendly, as you can make plenty of interesting and fun combos. And what is a Yakuza game without a plethora of side content? With a mix of fan favourites and new minigames alongside the incredibly unique side stories. The music though is by far the greatest part of Yakuza 0, with every song being an absolute banger to listen to. Overall, this is a very amazing entry to an already incredible series. Liam says his game of the year is Minecraft's Create mod. He hasn't played too many games this year, but he's been playing a lot of modded Minecraft, and this is by far his favourite one. It contains a very unique design philosophy compared to other mods of its type, as Create strives for feeling right at home with the base game. Another way it sets itself apart is how it utilises the technology that the mod introduces. There's less focus on many different blocks that all have their own unique uses. Instead, you use the mod's tools in a unique way but for the same outcome. You can then look into automating these processes. This makes it somewhat of a puzzle as you figure out how to turn these simple contraptions into full-on factories. There's also an added bonus of physicality, as you can actually move around and see all of the various components as opposed to just sitting inside a bunch of user interfaces. And finally, the big award for the Stephanie Wants to Talk About Video Games Awards 2022. The Game of the Not Year, for the best game I played this year, even if it did not come out in 2022. Little Nightmares is one of my favourite pieces of horror media. It contains a genuinely terrifying atmosphere and sick as fuck monster designs. Xenoblade Chronicles was my introduction to the series, and it was a brilliant one. I love this world and all of its characters, and I really hope to see them again someday. God of War 2018 was one of the best stories I have ever witnessed, and the gameplay is simply just incredibly satisfying. These games, and every other game I have mentioned today, are all amazing in their own silly little ways, but only one game can be my favourite for this year. Chicory: A Colourful Tale is one of the best games I have ever experienced, period. As mentioned before, the story is simply fantastic all the way through. The gameplay is simple, fun and incredibly engaging. All of the characters were such a joy to talk to. The world was a blast to explore. It contains an absolutely stellar soundtrack. Every pixel, every letter, every note in this game is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And that is why it is not just my game of the year, but one of my games of the century. I really hope everyone enjoyed this silly little video of mine. If I feel like it, I'll do the same thing next year. Also, feel free to share your favourite games of the year. Also, this award show is a channel, pass the practice of some other ones. Everything, goodbye.